but a lot of it is spinning on globalization. And I think when everything is moving towards global, digital, and being borderless, I think the customer expectations and behaviors are still very varied in different countries and different markets. So, how do businesses, while trying to be global and standardized, meet these different expectations and behaviors in different markets? So, for example, certain markets in Asia, when we see Vietnam and Indonesia, are pretty much cash oriented still, whereas when you come to Singapore and Hong Kong, they're completely digital and cashless. I think the other thing is the regulatory environment and the infrastructure of payments is very, very diverse, and especially in Asia. I think the political landscape, the regulatory landscape is very different. So, in the face of globalization, we're also facing a lot of diversification. We see a lot of cross-currency controls being put in. So when we talk about cross-border being seamless, how do you manage that in a situation where there are local currency restrictions in different market? When we talk about being instant payments, I want instant payments, I want my payments to be there in 5 seconds. But when we actually look at payment systems, they're all domestic. All the instant payment systems that we see are domestic. So I think these are some of the big challenges new economy players are facing. I think the key challenge is diversification, right? If you see in APAC, we have so many jurisdictions, different governments, they all have different agendas. There are multiple regulators in each jurisdiction and which have different regulations when it comes to managing payments, right? Or managing money, whether it be e-payment regulations, whether it be payment service providers, even securities regulations. So I think this regulatory environment adds a layer of complexity for business as they scale beyond borders. It is very important to understand how do you comply with these requirements to actually be able to effectively expand in these new markets. And I think also it underpins how do you effectively manage your cash management and liquidity. So, if I had to name a few key areas which probably the new economy faces in these different jurisdictions is, of course, barriers to enter different markets. So what are the stringent controls they have, the incorporation of business, the different taxes that are applied to it, whether it has to be a resident account structure or a non-resident account structure, then what are the activities which are restricted offshore, onshore, understanding all these nuances is important. Understanding the ever-evolving regulatory landscape and regimes. We've seen, especially on the anti-money laundering, capital and business conduct requirements, we see every 6 months a new regulation or a new best practices paper coming in. So these are pretty much important. Also, understanding the complete control regulations, the exchange control regulations in each of these countries. How will you manage your cross-currency transactions? How do you manage your client monies versus your own money versus your stored value services where you're providing? I can actually go on because there are so many of these challenges that are there. And I think that's where you need a very experienced partner who understands the financial regulatory landscape of these countries and how actually you can navigate to move money or to make money.